Hello, all. You are listening to And Why and the Bible reading series or watching. Please watch the first video if you haven't for the disclaimer. But moving on, start off. This is Genesis 21, but starting off, we'll be reading the Lord's Prayer, Matthew 6, 9 through 13, King James Version. Excuse me. After this manner, therefore, pray ye. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth, as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. Once again, this is Genesis 21. King James Version. Header is Isaac is born. And the Lord visited Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did unto Sarah as he had spoken. For Sarah conceived and bare Abraham a son in his old age, at the set time of which God had spoken to him. And Abraham called the name of his son that was born unto him, whom Sarah bare to him, Isaac. And Abraham circumcised his son, being 8 days old, as God had commanded him. And Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born unto him. And Sarah said, God hath made me to laugh, so that all that hear will laugh with me. And she said, Who would have said unto Abraham that Sarah should have given children's suck? For I have borne him a son in his old age. And the child grew, and he was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast the same day that Isaac was weaned. Sarah turns against Hagar. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, which she had borne unto Abraham, mocking. Wherefore she said unto Abraham, Cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, even with Isaac. Isaac. And the thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight, because of his son. And God said unto Abraham, Let it not be grievous in thy sight because of the lad, and because of thy bondwoman, and all that Sarah hath said unto thee. Hearken unto her voice, for in Isaac shall thy seed be called. And also of the son of the bondwoman I will make a nation, because he is thy seed. And Abraham rose up early in the morning, and took bread and a bottle of water, and gave it unto Hagar, and putting it on her shoulder and the child, and sent her away, and she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. And the water was spent in the bottle, and she cast the child under one of the shrubs. And she went and sat her down over against him a good way off, as it were a bow shot. For she said, Let me not see the death of the child. And she sat over against him, and lifted up her voice, and wept. And God heard the voice of the lad, and the angel of God called to Hagar out of heaven, and said unto her, What aileth thee, Hagar? Fear not, for God hath heard the voice of the lad where he is. Arise, lift up the lad, and hold him in thine hand, for I will make him a great nation. And God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. And she went and filled the bottle with water, and gave the lad drink. And God was with the lad, and he grew, and dwelt in the wilderness, and became an archer. And he dwelt in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took him a wife out of the land of Egypt. Covenant with Abimelech. And it came to pass the time that Abimelech and the Phicol, the chief captain of his host, spake unto Abraham, saying, God is with thee in all that thou doest. Now therefore swear unto me here by God, that thou wilt not deal falsely with me, nor with my son, nor with my son's son, but according to the kindness that I have done unto thee, thou shalt do unto me into the land wherein thou hast sojourned. And Abraham said, I will swear. And Abraham reproved Abimelech because of a well of water, which Abimelech's servants had violently taken away. And Abimelech said, I wot not who hath done this thing. Neither didst thou tell me, neither yet heard I of it, but today. And Abraham took sheep and oxen, and gave them unto Abimelech, and both of them made a covenant. And Abraham set 7 ewe lambs of the flock by themselves. Abimelech said unto Abraham, What mean these 7 ewe lambs, which thou hast set by themselves? And he said, For these 7 ewe lambs shalt thou take of my hand, that they may be a witness unto me that I have digged this well. Wherefore he called that place Beersheba, because they were swear both of them. Thus they made a covenant at Beersheba, Then Abimelech rose up, and Phicol the chief captain of his host, and they returned into the land of the Philistines. And Abraham planted a grove in Beersheba, and called there on the name of the Lord, the everlasting God. And Abraham sojourned in the Philistines' land many days. That ends the reading. There are a couple different stories. There's 3 stories here. The first one, the blessing that God promised. The second one, the casting away of Hagar and her son, but him growing up still and surviving, which is another promise that God kept. And then covenant with Abimelech, between Abraham and Abimelech, concerning a well and a land. So we'll go to the commentary here for Genesis 21. And the Lord remembered Sarah as he had said. So this section was placed next to the preceding section to teach you that whoever begs for mercy for his friend, when he needs the same thing, he is answered first, for it is said, and Abraham prayed, etc., and immediately following it, and the Lord remembered Sarah. He had already remembered her before he healed Abimelech. I guess there might be some validity in this, especially if it's considering the fact that somebody is caring for someone else. And then remembered Sarah as he had said concerning the promise of conception, as he had spoken concerning the promise of birth. Now, where is saying, and where is the expression saying, question mark? This is just ensuring the proper grammatic part here. I've been staring at this chapter for a little bit, so I apologize if I miss a few things, and my mind kind of wanders off with a few of these. They're kind of nuanced in what they're trying to say. And the Lord did to Sarah as he had spoken, but he said it to Abraham. So and Sarah conceived and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, and at that time which God had spoken to him. So God had spoken to him a year before, when he was roughly 99. Now he comes to 100, and so it was promised. So Rabbi Yudin and Rabbi Kama dispute. Yudin says, this teaches us that he was born after 9 months, so that it should not be said that he was conceived in Abimelech's household. And Rabbi Kama says after 7 months. So there's a dispute of time frames of when the conception of his son was, Itzhak, at the time of which God had spoken. The time that he had spoken and fixed, when he, the angel, said to him, 18:14, at the appointed time I will return to you. He made a scratch on the wall and said to him, when the sun reaches this scratch next year, she will give birth. So just time frame. It is the time that he'd spoken about. In his old age, just means that his Isaac's facial features were like his. Not sure exactly how I'm supposed to read that. I guess I thought it was the fact that it was in the old age of Abraham, not Isaac's, but maybe I'm getting that backwards. Anyways, not consequential, because we're still reading essentially the same thing, that God came in the time frame that he said that he would, and he has blessed Sarah with a child as he promised to Abraham. And Sarah said, God has made joy for me. Whoever hears will rejoice over me. So this is interesting because it says, will rejoice with me. Is many barren women were remembered with her. Many sick people were healed on that day. Many prayers were answered with hers. And there was much joy in the world. This must be something that I can't read into it. But I could see it being true, that this day was a remarkable day. I mean, I consider it remarkable because God did what he said that he was going to do. Not that God won't do that, but he did a miracle, in my opinion. Not a ridiculous miracle, but a pretty serious miracle. But the main thing is he was faithful. And we should rejoice when God is faithful. I mean, It doesn't have to be, but he always is. And she said, who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children, for I have borne a son to his old age. Once again, that old age portion, I'm reading it, maybe I'm misunderstanding what this is intending to say, but earlier on it said Sarah conceived and bore a son to Abraham in his old age. I think it's just simply meaning that Abraham was old and she was old too. Very kind of maybe a little bit literal, but yeah. So who would have said to Abraham an expression of praise and esteem, as in Isaiah 41:4, who has wrought and done? The footnote, who has created these? See what he is and who he is and how great he is, he who keeps his promises. The Holy One, blessed be he, promises and does. So once again, this is just, it's reaffirming the fact that when God says that he will do something, he does it. I got interested in why this was even said. I said about said. So it ends with this, who would have said to Abraham. Apparently, this word is unusual, but it's unusual because it equates to 100 in the end, meaning that Abraham was 100 when this happened. I'm not 100% sure. I read this Bereshit Rabbah, I believe. I'm sure somebody will correct me in the future, but I read this quite lengthy bit concerning these chapters, and it just kind of came down to a point where it was like, yeah, this is just saying that it's a unique way to say that Abraham was 100 here. Sarah would nurse children. The word there is plural, and in that writing there is a mention of Sarah blessing other women by breastfeeding their children. So there may be so this says, why is children in the plural? Question. On the day of the feast, the princesses brought their children with them, and she nursed them, for they were saying, Sarah did not give birth, but brought in a foundling from the street. So I guess this is another moment in which she is proving her capability to nurse children, which proves that she didn't just adopt a child at that point by picking up a child off the street. That's kind of terrible that would be going on. And the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast on that day that Yitzhak was weaned. It was weaned at the end of 24 months. So I guess there was a period of time in which they waited to do this great feast. But for all the prominent people of the generation were there, Shem, Eber, and Abimelech. So that comes into, the later. However, there's this a bit of an altercation. Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, making merry. That's what it says here. However, in the, forgot the verse 9 here. It says mocking. So I guess we could really kind of look into the interlinear of this. Oops, that was not what I should have clicked. Okay. Sakak, I think, is what it's saying, is what this word is. And it means to laugh, mock, or play. So in this, there is a large debate in this right here. The reason why Sarah said no to Hagar being there with her child, and it has to do with this making merry bit. Knowing New Testament writings about mocking being not a very good thing, I'm sure that there's Old Testament references, but in my brain, my first thing is, do not sup with a mocker kind of comes up. That might actually be Proverbs, now that I think about it. So either way, mocking is not something that is preferred. A mocker is not preferred. So this making merry here at the end, it says an expression of idolatry, as it says, or as it is said in Exodus 32:6, they rose up to make merry, or to mock. Another explanation, an expression of illicit relations, as it is said below, 39:17, to mock me. There was multiple rabbi in this writing up here that I went through that were conversing what it could have been. First one, mocking. Second one, forceful relationships with women that shouldn't have been done. However, another explanation is murder, which is not good. And then, as it is said, let the boys get up now and sport before us in 2 Samuel 2:14. And then there's another bit of this that it is trying to think of exactly how to say it. Those pretty much cover them. There's just some nuanced variances to them. So you either have, essentially, idolatry, mocking, or this aggressiveness, as we'll put it, right? So any of these, but this here is essentially saying why Sarah did it. I have some suspicion that there was a little bit of, because of the next statement here. I'll leave it to that. And Sarah said to Abraham, drive out his handmaid and her son, for the son of this handmaid shall not inherit with my son, with Isaac. Maybe I'm leaning into a little bit of my personal interpretation of this, but I could see, I guess intuitively see one being jealous of the other, or, just not respectful of the other individual. We saw that Sarah and Hagar kind of had a falling out there at one point, and it's even crazy that Hagar's back with Ishmael. But there is this altercation. Whatever that is, however you kind of read it, I think I lean into the mocking. So the child was mocking, and that was not taken well. And because of the dislike between the two women, it seems quite obvious to me. Maybe not to other people, but if you involve yourself with two, there might be some consternation. Just leave it at that, in my opinion. It's entirely opinion based, so don't consider that strict ruling. And Sarah said to Abraham, drive out this handmaid. So like I said, and with my son. So this part here, shall not inherit with my son. From Sarah replies, for the son of his handmaid shall not inherit with my son. You learn that he would quarrel with Isaac or Isaac regarding the inheritance and say, I am the firstborn and should take portions. They would go out to the field and he would take his bow and shoot arrows at him, as it is said, Proverbs 26:18, like one who wearies himself shooting firebrands, etc., and says, I am not joking. Or you could possibly read that as mocking. Time frames are kind of not direct here on what's happening, because if this was true that there was like 24 months before they had this party and finally, Sarah's like, I'm done with this, maybe there was some instances where there were statements made or actions done towards, Sarah's child. So that's very possible if time frames are as such. It's not just directly bam, bam, bam. Everything is, in sequence here in chronological, but in chronological order in the sense of like there were time frames between these things. I could see that happening. With my son, with Isaac, just because he is my son, even if he were not as deserving as Isaac, or if he were as deserving as Isaac, even if he were not my son, this one Ishmael does not deserve to inherit with him. How much more so does he not deserve to inherit with my son, with Isaac, who has both qualities? This kind of goes back to what I was saying. There may be more going on than what the scriptures is specifically saying. The plainest way that I could put it was there was some type of mocking. Sarah, because of previous incidences, said, get rid of them. I don't want anything to do with them. But there's a problem, because this greatly displeased Abraham. It's his son. Whether or not he was doing any of the things that were listed previously, it's Abraham's son. He's going to love him. So concerning his son, because he had heard that he had fallen to wicked ways, according to its simple meaning, however, it means because she told him to send him away. Simply in the simple form, it says, however, it means because she told him to send him away. So I think I side with it. Not that my opinion really matters all that much, but I could personally lean more towards just the fact that it's a father and a son, and his wife wants to cast his son away. That would be difficult. God said to Abraham, "Do not be displeased concerning the lad and concerning your handmaid." I'm kind of curious what this word actually means. Sorry, I didn't even look this up, but now that I'm reading it, grievous, raw, to be bad, to be evil, to be displeasing, to be sad, to be injurious, and injurious, be evil, to be wicked, be evil, ethically, to do an injury. That's a kind of a weird way to have that. Evil and then evil ethically. To do an injury or hurt, to do evil or wickedly, mischief, to break, shatter, to break, broken. So he's... Don't be broken would be another way. So grievous, displeased, distraught, broken. The evil part is interesting. I'm sure there's a reason why that they say it's displeased and not that. There's always annotations for this stuff that is not in English. Be not displeased concerning the lad and concerning your handmaid. Whatever Sarah tells you, hearken to her voice, for in Isaac will be called your seed. Another promise, he had promised this before, and he's maintaining his promise. He's maintaining his faithfulness, and he is upholding that. Hearken to her voice, to the voice of the Holy Spirit within her. We learn from her here that Abraham was inferior to Sarah in prophecy. Not sure I read that. That might be above and beyond what I can glean from what I have here in the English, but I can simply put, the Lord is saying to Abraham, worry not. I am concerned for them. I have already made my promise. And listen to what your wife is telling you. I will take care of the situation. Is how I'm reading that as pragmatically as I possibly can. Not that all of my readings are entirely pragmatic, but that's beside the point. And Abraham arose early in the morning, and he took bread and a leather pouch of water, and he gave them to Hagar. So he gave them bread is usually for kind of an idea of for the spirit, for the soul. Leather pouch of water, so sustenance. He gave them to Hagar. He placed them on her shoulder and the child, and he sent her away, and she went and wandered in the desert of Beersheba. I was going to look at how to pronounce that. I'm probably butchering that. And even if I try, I'll probably still butcher it phonetically, but it's always interesting. Beersheba. Okay, so not ba, but va. Okay, Beersheba, which it's Abraham. I'm trying to be as phonetically correct as I can, but some of the names are a bit much for my brain to hold in. Abraham, so the bread, but not silver and gold, which, because he hated him for falling to evil ways. Yeah, there's an undertone that I'm not catching from this that apparently is within inside of the Hebrew or Aramaic that I just can't see, and it has something to do with this word displeased, but also concerning his son with this merrymaking. Something's going on that I can't quite discern, but either or. It is interesting that he doesn't give him silver and gold, but I don't know if I could jump to the conclusion that it was because he hated him for his evil ways, just personally. And the child, he also placed the child on her shoulder because Sarah had cast an evil eye upon him, and he was seized by a fever so that he could not walk on his feet. Yeah, sometimes there's things that I read and I'm like, I'm not sure how that comes about. It's a quite a stretch for me. And she went and wandered to revert to the idols of her father's house. Maybe that's what this wandering is referring to. I think it's just the fact that she has nowhere to go. No, which is I laugh because it's like, yeah. I mean, if she was Egyptian, it's very likely that she may have reverted back to those things, especially if the people that you came from or that you were with that were told that we're going to take care of you are now casting you aside. I could see that. It's very, very plausible. The pain that she must be enduring is something else. Though, I mean, and I'm not trying to justify this. This isn't a fallacy. There are things that are going on that we don't really just have, instant access to. So I can't judge either way. The water was depleted from the leather pouch, and she cast the child under one of the bushes, and the water is depleted. Another leap for me, because sick people were habitually drink great amounts of water. I think it was just because it came to a place where they didn't have any water anymore. I mean, they're in a desert-like country, hot, very hot, and she went and sat down from afar at about the distance of 2 bow shots. Apparently, we'll get to that here in a second. For she said, "Let me not see the child's death." And she sat from afar, and she raised her voice and wept. Sometimes I have to tell myself, nope, we're going to talk about that in a second. We'll leave it for the future. From afar, so she places herself at a distance. The distance of 2 bow shots. I'm not going to read the whole thing because some of it's just kind of like, I don't even know what in the world it's saying. But it's an expression of shooting an arrow, but it's a distance. And then it goes into some really obscure references about distances and shooting things, and staggering like a drunkard. But in the writing, in the Bereshit, it is just simply putting a distance to it. I forget exactly how far it was, but that's all that it's coming down to. There's a little bit of like, how far exactly that is, but I think it's just like an idiom that means a far distance. When she sat from afar, see, like it says, and she sat from afar, and she raised her voice and wept. So when he drew near death, she went further away. She was just far away. All of that to say that. Sorry. Don't mean to belabor a point. God heard the lad's voice. An angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said to her, "What is troubling you, Hagar? Fear not, for God has heard the lad's voice in the place where he is." Lad's voice. From here we learn that another one of these sick references. I think they're sold on this idea that somehow Sarah just, I'm going to make a little bit of a joke, winked at Ishmael, and then he instantly became sick and unable to walk. Very unusual in my mind. However, that is something that they see in this. So I shouldn't put that down too much. It's something that we don't consider, at least in Western Christianity, because we're just not familiar with these writings as much. Prayer is more effective than the prayer of others on his behalf, and is first to be accepted. Now that part, I can kind of get behind, is this concept that if somebody else is praying for another person, God hears that. If the heart is oriented properly, God hears that. In my opinion, if you're praying for yourself, I'm sure he's listening. I'm not trying to say that, but I do think that he concerns himself when another person is concerned with another person. I think that he really thoroughly respects that. Where he is, according to the deeds that he does now, he is judged, and not according to what he is destined to do. All of this right here is simply to say that God had an argument with some angels about, why are you providing for the lad when you know what he's going to do? But the statement from God is essentially, has he done these things yet? We will deal with that when it comes to that, if it comes to that, essentially. Anyways, God was with the lad, and he grew, and he dwelt in the desert and became an archer. Here's another reference to an archer. We've seen this a couple times, but he became an archer, one who shoots arrows with a bow, so exactly what it means. He is so designated because of his occupation. So this is what he did as a job. Like, I'm trying to remember what Abraham's job was. I'm going to say tent maker, but I could be completely wrong about that. I might be thinking about somebody else, so don't quote me on it. But that's just what it's saying, is that was his job. And he dwelt in the desert of Paran. His mother took him a wife from the land of Egypt. So here he uses a really strange idiom that I've never heard. From the land of Egypt, from the place where she grew up, as it is stated in above in 16:1, and she had an Egyptian handmaid, etc. That is what people say. Throw a stick into the air and it will land on its place of origin, the ground. Very interesting way to just say that a person will return to where they came from. So that kind of gives us an orientation of where they're at, headed kind of towards the land of the Egyptians. Now it came to pass at the time that Abimelech and Phicol, his general, said to Abraham, saying, God is with you in all that you do. Because they saw that he had come out of the region of Sodom unscathed, and that he had fought with the kings, and they fell into his hands, and that his wife was remembered with child in old age. So they noticed that God is blessing him, through this time. And now swear to me here by God that you will not lie to me or to my son or to my grandson according to the kindness that I have done with you. You shall do with me with the land wherein you have sojourned. And Abraham said, I swear. So here we see the what do we want to call it? Abimelech is remembering what Abraham did. So he's like, all right, now you're going to have to, you're not going to lie to me this time. So he makes him swear to him, which I guess if I had more time, I wish I could dive more into this. But I won't for time's sake now, as we start to get longer and longer. Or to my son or to my grandson, thus far as a father's compassion for his son. So I agree with that, but also it's kind of like saying, keep this between us as families, like your family and my family. Can you, keep your honesty with us. According to the kindness that I have done with you, you shall do with me. When I said to you above in 2015, here's my land before you. So, and also the gifts that he had given. However, one of those gifts he was saying to use as proof, or different ways to interpret it, but he'd given them gifts. Abraham contended with Abimelech about the well of water that the servants of Abimelech had forcibly seized. So we have this. He says, be honest with me. I want to be blessed by the God that you are with, because he seems to be blessing you, which is a theme throughout the Bible. And Abraham contended with Abimelech. He disputed with him concerning this. So now he's saying, yes, but there is this problem we have, and it's a well. Abimelech said, I do not know who did this thing. In the King James, does it get? Sometimes I think they did this intentionally to get really wordy for no reason at all. But maybe it was just like a thing of the time. And Abimelech said, I wot not who hath done this thing, neither didst thou tell me, neither yet heard I of it, but today. Extremely complicated to just say, I don't know who did this. Neither did you tell me, nor did I hear of it until today. But like I said, maybe it's just the way things were spoken about in the time frame of King James, but that's what it means here. And Abraham took flocks and cattle and gave them to Abimelech, and they both formed a covenant. So we go here. Abraham does this covenant with him, as we saw with the Lord. They had animals; he split them, but he also brought 7 ewe lambs. In order that it be this be for me, for a witness, an expression of testimony in the feminine form, like in the moment is a witness that I dug this well. So he's giving him these ewe lambs to Abimelech to say, I dug this land. or I dug this well in this land. They agreed among themselves that whoever would appear beside the well and the water would rise towards him in the well, that was his, and that the waters rose towards Abraham. Another one of those just strange things that I guess they had two guys stand up next to this well, and the well just like the waters within the well just, gravitated towards one man. Strange to me. Maybe it is. I'm not going to, say it isn't, but I'm just going to take it on the front and just say, I dug this well for Abraham, and I want you to take these 7 ewe lambs as proof. And he planted an Ishmael in Beersheba, and he called there in the name of the Lord, the God of the world. An Ishmael. There is a lot of writing that I went through in this to figure out. One says that it was an orchard from which to bring fruits for the guests at the meal, and one says that it was an inn for lodging. Yeah. So there's these two rabbis. Yudah is one of them, and they're arguing on whether it was an orchard or a lodging place for people to eat. So, not exactly sure what the importance of that is. We find the expression of planting used in conjunction with tents in Daniel 11:45. So there's the proof of that, in which he will pitch his palatial tents. So either or, something happens in proof in place for in Beersheba, stating that this covenant had happened, and he called there. He called there in the name of the Lord, the God of the world. By means of that Ishmael, the name of the Holy One, blessed be He, was called God of the whole world after they would eat and drink. So whether it's an orchard or a building, he would say to them, bless the one of whose food you have eaten. Do you think that you have eaten of my food? You have eaten the food of the one who spoke, and the world came into being. This is a blessing place, essentially. Abraham was like, I'm going to make this as a memory of the Lord God and how he created the world and blesses us with this food. And Abraham dwelt in the land of the Philistines, and we come to the end here. This is a large wall of text, so I'm not going to read it, but you can if you would like. There is essentially figuring out how many days he stayed in Philistine and Hebron. Is what is going on here. And it's simply, like it says right here at the very end, Scripture does not come to obscure, but to clarify, for if the days in the Philistines, exceeded the days in Hebron by 2 years or more, it would have stated so plainly. You must conclude that they did not exceed them by more than 1 year, hence 26 years in the land of the Philistines, immediately left there and returned to Hebron, and that year preceded the binding of Isaac by 12 years. It is important information. I don't find it important currently right now for my intent. I can't remember, what year we're at in this. That's something that's kind of beyond my capabilities. But that's simply all that it's saying, is that he dwelt in the land of the Philistines for more than he did in Hebron, is what I'm getting out of that. So this here ends chapter 21. Some of the things are a little bit of a leap for me. I read some stuff that was just really unusual, which it's not that it's unusual. It's just not stuff that we typically talk about in our day and age. It doesn't change, or it doesn't remove any validity to this text. It's simply just adding some strange perspectives to the whole thing, like this here, at the time of which God had spoken. So he made a scratch on the wall and said to him. So they think, something in a very orthodox sense, that there was in this building that, Abraham was in, whether tent or building, there was a scratch made on the wall by, the three messengers that came, that said, when it hits this point, she will give birth. So, hopefully this blesses you. It's always interesting to get into some of this stuff. However, this time my mind was kind of getting a little hazy with reading it. I don't know why, but it just kind of some of it didn't want to was having a hard time, like, coming to understand some of the stuff. But anyways, like I said, I hope it blesses you. Thank you so much for listening to the very end. You're listening to And Why, the Bible series. Hope to see you next time.